Hey everybody, I was going to talk to you today about small things that might be keeping you from owning property. And as the title suggests, it's not necessarily finance. Uh, the first thing, you might be trapped in that I want the perfect house, or I need the perfect house and the perfect location and all these things. That's great. There's nothing wrong with wanting that perfect house, but, the perfect house in a lot of ways is kind of like that perfect parking place when you go to the grocery store or retail outlet you like to go to. It's it's like that. The only difference is that while depending on what time you go to the grocery store or retail outlet, and if you drive around once or twice, maybe you can get that perfect parking place. That perfect house is not as easy to get. For one thing, the minute that perfect house and that perfect location hits the market, you got a realtor that the people are probably dealing with that already has people that are looking for a house. So she's going to notify them first. She's obviously going to put it on one of these realtor sites because, like I said, you always want to cover your bases. The sooner you get it out there and the sooner you get it riled up, you know, that's always best. So you may never get this perfect house, or by the time you find about it, there may be 10 people in line for this thing. There may be a bidding war for it. You never know. So right off the bat, if unless you're just loaded, and even if you're loaded sometimes, like I said, if you get too late to the party, it doesn't matter. So that's one thing. If you keep trying to pine for this perfect house, you'll probably never get that perfect house just for that simple matter. Another thing, you know, you might want to consider getting a house that is not quite, this perfect house. You might want to get a house that's a little bit smaller, maybe a house that's a little out of the way. You don't necessarily have to get too far the way, but that's another option too. If you can get a really good deal in a house, now granted, there's some deals for houses you can get around my area, but you may not want to live there because you may get robbed. So that, that's in the major city around here in Birmingham. So I would be careful about that. But you you can find something a little out of the way, and of course, because the location is not going to be this perfect location, you might be able to get a whole lot better price on it. So you think about that, you got a house that you could put a bigger down payment on, and you could probably pay it off a lot faster than you would something else. Not to mention the fact that this whole time that you're putting money in this house that may not be the perfect house, you've got collateral. So once you decide to leave it, even if you're not through paying it off, you've got collateral that you could use for your next house. That's collateral's always good. The money that you're spending on rent, going towards something, and that asset appreciating is always a great thing. So that's another thing you can look into. Uh, Something else you might look into is one of these fixer-upper houses. And these can range from, you know, just maybe a house that it looks aesthetically pleasing, other than the interior is, out of date. I had a friend that worked at a restaurant I used to go to all the time, and we'd talk about stuff, and he would tell me every time I went there about updates about this house he and his wife bought, and it was like way too big for them, but they got it at a really good deal because, like I said, it was just, the interior was just kind of 70s style. So he was learning everything he could about, tiling, wallpaper, Bondo. Well, not Bondo, but stucco. Patching up the walls and everything like that. Little small things he was certified to do. Obviously, plumbing and wiring would kind of a thing you got to look into a little bit more. But he was doing all these things that he was saving a fortune on, and he was excited. So the whole do-it-yourself route or fixer-upper thing, that might be something. And like I said, this can range anywhere from something that just needs to be updated or possibly, a complete renovation. The great thing about some of these older houses, I bought a 5-acre property, and it had they call it a house, but I call it an existing structure. And the great thing about that is that when you build a house, you normally have to pay permits and get all these things, the power company, the water company, all these things done. You got to run water to it, run power to it. You got to install a septic tank. But if you get a property that has an existing structure, that I call Yeah. Oh, this old house, you literally can tear that whole house down, and as long as you don't exceed the square footage on the original parameters of the house, you could actually rebuild that house. You could build a whole new house from not scratch, but build a whole new house. But because you're basically doing a renovation, you don't have to go through anywhere near the paperwork you would have to do if you built something from scratch. Plus, you have the septic tank is already there, the the power's already run to it, and the water's already run to it, and probably already got the cable. So all too often, if you got your utilities and your cable, you got everything covered. But that's another thing you could do. Another thing you might look into is just buying some property, doing it all from literal scratch. This will require you to have like a trail or put a little driveway in. You While you're putting your driveway in, if there's no water ran to it, they'll probably put your water under your driveway or whatever appropriate way that they think is necessary. Your power will be ran either surface or under, depending on how they do that. And depending on how far away you are from the road, will depend. I think they can do fiber optic all the way back there now, depending on your location. But if they got coax cable, you might have to look at a setup. I have a setup to where I have like a wireless bridge, but I'll go into that in a minute. So that's something you can look into doing that. And the last thing that you might look into that just a lot of people try to avoid is something called landlocked land. And what this is a land that doesn't have a direct connection physically with the access road or main highway. And what it is, you have deeded access through another person's property or person's property. And that's originally when I moved out where I had deeded access through my two neighbors' property. And because of that, it doesn't even matter if they sell it because that's written up in the deed, hence deeded access. They have to observe that, and whoever buys it, and then you still have access. If they obstruct that, you can literally call the sheriff's office on them or police, and they can do something about that because they're preventing you from, getting in and out. So, I mean, I've never had any problems with my neighbor, and like a year into buying my property that was landlocked, the owner in front of me actually moved out. They had just, one night they were just moving their appliances out. And I'm thinking, hey, they must have got new appliances. And I didn't see them for weeks. And I asked my other neighbor one day when I saw him, I was like, hey, where's your neighbors at? And he was like, oh, yeah, they left. I was like, they left? He was like, yeah, they're gone. I was like, they're gone? He was like, yeah, they bailed, man. They're not going to finish paying for their property. So immediately I got with my realtor, and we wound up getting a really good deal on this like five acres that was right in front of me. And like I said, the house was really not anything to brag about. I called it existing structure, and I want to fix it up one day, but now I kind of use it as like, storage. And I actually have my internet that goes there. Out where I live, we don't have fiber optic out here. We have coax cable. Well, it's probably fiber optic at the main line, but they don't branch it off the pole there. It's coax. So what I do, because I have power up at the front house, as I call it, don't think I'm bougie or anything. It's like I said, it's not all that great. It's just an existing structure. And I will beam internet back to where I'm at, but I plan on actually using some fiber optic media conversion and running a fiber optic cable back here. It's only about maybe 500 feet or so, but I'm going to do that. But that's another thing you can look into is deeded access properties or landlocked. I mean, yeah, you can get some pretty good deals because the sellers of my original property I bought out here, they were trying to sell for years. But I guess nobody saw the potential. It's so quiet out here. Nobody bothers me out here. And if the way it's set up, my front neighbor that's by the road, it looks like his driveway. So you don't really want to go down this driveway. So only like delivery people and the municipalities actually know that my house is back here. So it's great. It's like one of the best setups. It's one way in, one way out. A lot of criminals don't like that. They don't want to get boxed in, They never want to get boxed in. But it's been great. But those are some ideas that can really help you maybe find you a property. You may have to, compromise just a little bit or a lot just to get something to start putting some equity into, and have yourself an appreciating asset. But those are some small things that might be keeping you from owning property. All right. Well, hey, thank you for joining me, and like and subscribe.